pleasure to introduce Craig McKee, who's going to be giving his presentation today. Craig.
Well, thank you, everybody. Am I being well heard? I'm almost tempted to say that after Xander's presentation that we should all just pack up and go home. Because as far as I'm concerned, he's pretty much nailed it. But I'm going to try to fill in some other aspects of this. First of all, a few little introductory remarks just about how I got to where I am. I really only began to question the 9/11 lie back in 2007 when a friend told me about Building 7. And I remember saying at the time that there's no way that could be true because the media would have told us about it. I was very naive back in 2007. But watching a video of 7 coming down kind of started me on my journey, which really began with reading the systematic dismantling of the official story by David Ray Griffin, who I'm sure everyone here knows. It wasn't until 2010 when I started my blog, Truth and Shadows, that I began to make contact with other people in the truth movement. And I actually got the chance to meet David Griffin in 2010 at the Toronto hearings. And I remember being very much in awe of him at the time, but I rallied the courage to go up and introduce myself and to, in a sort of shameless play for his approval, I told him that I owned 7 of his books. And he smiled at me and he said, "Why don't you have them all?" "I'm working on it," I responded. In those early days of my 9/11 education, I learned a lot about the World Trade Center evidence, including the impossible free fall of Building 7. I learned about the incredible, some might say a better word would be idiotic, claim that a Flight 93 crashed in an open field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and buried itself completely under the ground, with the hole filling itself in before investigators could arrive. As I soaked up all the knowledge I could find about 9/11, I came across a documentary film called National Security Alert by a duo, two men from California, Aldo Marquis and Craig Ranke, and you heard Xander mention them already. They made this film in 2009. They made a bunch of videos, but this was kind of a synthesis of all their work. Watching that film really changed everything for me. It's the reason really that I'm standing here today. I was blown away by the initiative they had taken in flying across the country on their own dime to seek out witnesses to the event. But even where I was stunned about the implications of what they learned from those witnesses, they were able to show that the plane that flew towards the Pentagon did so on a flight path that doesn't match the damage. In other words, the crash scene was staged, and Xander gave you a great deal of great information towards that, and the plane did not hit the building. And this, more than any other element of the 9/11 narrative, proves government complicity in this false flag attack. And that's why the Pentagon is important. And that's why sometimes I get frustrated when we talk about, well, we don't really know enough, and we've got to just keep researching and keep, when they release the information, then we'll know. Well, I think we know enough. I think we know enough to know that the official story is a lie. And that's the most important thing. Xander mentioned his first loyalty being to the Constitution. I guess we have our own Constitution. So I guess, but I'm really devoted to not just the truth, because people use that word very loosely. I'm seeking the truth. But I'm devoted, in the case of 9/11, to exposing lies and exposing deception. It's not enough to sort of endlessly academically sort of research things and sort of, keep things as if they're in a state of never being resolved. I believe we can prove that the story is a lie. We don't know everything about it. We don't know everything about the World Trade Center, frankly. There are elements of that in terms of how it was done, the explosive mechanisms. We don't know everything. So I'm going to get to my slides here. This is the scene of the crime. This is the Pentagon. Ground was broken on this building, some of you may know, on September the 11th, 1941, 60 years to the day before 9/11. I don't know what that means, but it's certainly intriguing. Now this, you could argue, is one of the most secure buildings in the world. And an attack on this building would be seen not just as a crime, but as an act of war, giving the government an opportunity to respond in a way that it would not with many other targets. So this is a view looking, you see that red arrow? The red arrow is approximately, the best I could make it, the official flight path. You can see there are 3 other landmarks in there. Encircled in blue is the Navy Annex. You saw that in Xander's presentation. Circled in yellow is the Citgo gas station. Now, why does a gas station matter? Well, it matters because it's a landmark that allowed witnesses to locate the plane in relation to it. Then we have, in green, we have the Arlington National Cemetery. That's the cemetery entirely to the right there, which is north, and you'll need to know north and south in this. But the maintenance buildings are important because there were several witnesses who were at the maintenance buildings who talked about what they saw. And you're going to hear clips of what they saw. And you have to me, either these people all have to be lying or they all have to be mistaken in the same incredible way, or they're telling the truth. And that plane was not on the official flight path, which means it didn't make the damage. Now, here we are. So there's an overhead, and you can see the red circle there is the alleged impact point. And that just gives you a chance to locate those 3 landmarks again. And here, I just put that in there just to show you what the path actually is supposed to be. The path has to be entirely south of the Navy Annex at all times. Nothing can even go over that building and still remain on the official path. So now this is sort of a part of the photo that Xander used, and it really is dramatic. The problem with the photos that day is that they were shooting a foam at the building all day long. So it's really hard to get a look at that hole. And you'll see in a minute, I guess I might as well just go to it. So in this thing, I mean, I'm not really going to get into explosives or the government video because I think Xander nailed that. But I am going to show some anomalies where the lack of debris and the lack of appropriate damage to the building are really some highlights. And then I'm going to focus on the flight path and the actual witnesses. Now, this is just a little kind of an intro to what the scene looked like on the ground. You'll see that whole section of the building that appears to have collapsed. That only happened about half an hour after the initial event. That whole part of the building was intact for the first half hour. One might wonder whether it was supposed to come down at the time of the initial impact, sorry. The explosion, it was not an impact. Now there's another view. Now I'm going to get to other slides. Don't worry, I'm not suggesting there was no debris. I'm sure people would want to jump on me if I did that. Now there was a lot of stuff strewn on the ground, a lot of pieces of something. I suspect things from inside the building were blown out. There are branches from trees. But it's not a 757, which is really the main thing. It doesn't really matter, whether there's a piece of a filing cabinet on the lawn. Now, and this is another shot sort of looking backwards across the helipad. And this is the side that Xander used earlier, showing that official path. And again, it has to be there because the official story says that the plane hit 5 light poles. Incidentally, there's no one who says, I saw it hit 5 light poles. You won't find that witness anywhere. You'll get some people who will say, oh yeah, I saw it hit a pole, or they think it hit a pole, but there's nobody that says, yeah, it hit 5 in a row. So if the plane that approached the Pentagon on 9/11 didn't follow the official flight path precisely, as I said, then it couldn't create the damage, and that means the plane didn't hit the building. Now, and this is the big one, if the flight path is wrong, then 9/11 is an inside job. So That's why I'm motivated to continue on this evidence. All right. Now, there were a lot of witnesses that day who were all over the place. There were people that said they saw the plane cartwheel across the lawn. There are people that say they saw the left wing drag across the lawn, but there's no marks on the lawn. There's some people that were actually inside the building. There are people who were high-level people at the Pentagon. And frankly, if I were doing this operation, I would have made sure there were a lot of people out there to have the right account for the official story. So I'm just mentioning that in a kind of general way to contrast it really with the witnesses that the CIT guys that were mentioned earlier that they spoke to. Now, this is a video that Ken Jenkins, who's an associate of Mr. Chandler and Mr. Costi, he did this compilation of witnesses who were interviewed in the mainstream media, many of whom appear to back up the official story. But as you can see, this is the very first one, and first of all we know is Janet. This is Janet's opinion. We don't know who Janet is, but then she admits she didn't see the impact anyway. So that's not a very strong witness. First of all, if somebody wanted to verify that Janet was a strong witness, they would go and find her and interview her on camera, the way Ranke and McKee did. Now, here's a guy who gives an account, Steve Storty. He says he saw the plane at the building from 3/4 of a mile away. That's from his balcony. And see that arrow? See that little beige thing there? That's the Pentagon. Not only does he claim that he saw the plane hit the Pentagon, but he says he saw people walking around on the plane through the windows of the plane. So that's the kind of witness that some people are trying to argue that we should be impressed by. Okay, now we're going to get to the real witnesses, very credible witnesses that McKee and Ranke interviewed. They interviewed quite a few people, at least, more than 24 probably, but about 13 key ones that can place the plane on the north path. When we say the north path, we say north of Citgo. People wouldn't know what that means, but it just means that the plane was north of the Citgo gas station. It couldn't be north and make all the damage. If it's north of the gas station, then it didn't hit the building. It's simple as that. Now, so as I say, now there has been criticism of them, unfair criticism, I feel, and we're going to be talking about that later today. I'm quite certain of that. But these are the best interviews we've got of witnesses. Now, are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. But they're very, very revealing and very important. Now, Massimo Mazzucca, I don't know how many people know Massimo. He did a tremendous film called September 11th, New Pearl Harbor. And it's about a 5.5 hour, very detailed thing. This is what he thinks. He says, the work of Craig Ranke and Aldo McKee of CIT, the work they have done on the witnesses for the North Path is some of the most solid, irrefutable evidence that one could ever assemble on 9/11, period. And he's right. The witnesses, and here's the key thing, the witnesses that CIT interviewed, when they were giving this path, they didn't know they were contradicting the official story. So you would think if they knew, then that would, that could have affected their testimony. But they just said, the plane hit the building, and here's where it was. Now, mind you, they weren't very close to the Pentagon, any of them, except one. We're going to meet him in a minute. So this is sort of an overhead. These are some of the names you're going to be hearing from. Well, maybe not everyone on that list, but most of them, because just for time. And this is their approximate vantage points. You can see those ones, that long list at the top there. Those are people that were at the Arlington Cemetery.
Where did you see the plane coming from exactly? What direction? Did you see it approaching?
Well, I saw it, like I said, from, if you look here where Arlington Cemetery is, right about where those transformers are,
yeah,
that's the first place I saw it. It cleared all these lampposts, or cleared all the light posts.
So it was heading towards you, coming from Arlington Cemetery, over there?
No. It was heading from left to right. It came from the 2 area.
So you're saying it was it came from to the north side of the Navy annex, even?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what it did before, what it did before those transformers, I don't know, because that's the first place I really saw it, was right there. But it was not coming towards me. It was coming from left to right, or from east, or from west to east.
That stone fence that we just zoomed in on over there is the fence to the Arlington National Cemetery. And as far as you could tell, the fuselage was over that.
Yeah, I mean, best guess estimate, that's about where the fuselage
And
was.
how high was it at that time?
About 150 feet AGL.
All right, now how sure are you that the plane was to the north, coming from the north side of the Navy Annex? You're saying it was pretty much between the Navy Annex and Arlington Cemetery? How
Right.
certain are you of that?
100%. Bet my life on it. 100%. Bet my life on it.
Okay, so that's Pentagon police officer, William Legacy. You'll hear discussion of him later, and there have been attempts to discredit him. But that's him standing at the gas station. He's at the north. He's looking north when he's making that whole description. He couldn't actually see the plane if it were on the official path, because the canopy of the gas station would have blocked his view. So it would have disappeared from view. So this whole description he's giving would not even be possible if it was on the south path. So and he's looking towards the cemetery. So he's very clear. There's no question about it. And there's going to be more from him in a second. And now we're going to look at a second police officer, Pentagon police officer, who was in a slightly different location, but very close to the gas station. And that's Chadwick Brooks.
What side of the station did you see the plane fly over?
Okay, actually, from the front of the station. From the front of the station, exactly where we were at earlier, with the yellow Jersey barrier.
Okay, was it more on the, when we're facing the station, more on the north side or to the left?
No, it was more to the left.
More to the left, okay. And was the plane, the entire plane to the left of the station, or maybe portion of it over the canopy of the station?
No, it was more towards the left.
It was the entire plane was to the left station, the wing and everything.
Correct.
Okay.
During this point right here, we were able to see everything. We were able to see everything.
Right.
When that plane came descending across here.
Okay, so it came from up over here.
Correct. See where the trees are at?
Yeah.
Where the trees are at?
Uh-huh. And it was descending.
Correct. It was descending by then. It had already been descending.
Okay,
it was
so
basically doing a straight line. A straight line towards the Pentagon. By
Sure.
then, it was actually en route, and it was a straight line.
So there's two Pentagon officers who had no particular interest in contradicting the official story, who were close to each other but didn't speak about this at all, and came up with the same result. And now the two of them are going to be on the site together, comparing notes in front of the camera.
I think that's pretty close.
That's damn near perfect from what I saw. And we've never, for the record,
we've
never talked to each other about
discussed
this.
it at all.
So neither of you guys have even really talked about this with each other.
Never talked.
Never in all these 5 years, and you both independently drew the flight path line pretty much exact.
I know, I mean, the way this has been going, who knew what he was going to put down there, because he was in a different location looking over. But it's right there, which makes me feel good about the way I remembered it.
So you're both pretty much 100% certain that that's what you remember the flight path
From
from.
different locations, yes.
Now let me ask you this. This is going to sound kind of silly. What are the odds that both of you are mistaken as far as the fact that the plane was on this side of the station and that the plane actually came from the south side of the station?
I tell you right now, you can't say more than 100% because there's no way it was anywhere other than where I said it was.
What about you?
Again, something like that, something of that magnitude.
So to reverse that question, what's the percentage chance that the plane was actually on the south side of the station?
0 chance? Is there less than 0%? It would be impossible for me to have seen through the building, over the roof, to see the plane.
So 0%. That's what he says. That's what the two of them say. Now we're going to hear from somebody, rather, who was working at the gas station. And the CIT guys found out about this person through the supervisor, and they said, oh, there's somebody that works here that got a good look. And this is a gentleman named Robert Tercios, and I think he may come up in the afternoon discussion part, because there have been misrepresentations of what he said. But you don't need to guess. You can see what he's going to say. And he's standing in this brief interview. He's standing a little bit north of the canopy of the gas station, sort of pointing back at the canopy, but the north end of it. And then anyway, you'll see here.
It seemed to be just over the canopy here, just over the corner of this canopy.
Okay. So it's just over the corner of that
Just
canopy.
over the corner of the canopy. As I said before, it seemed like it was going to crash onto the street here, but it did. I saw it go up a little bit, headed towards the Pentagon.
It looked like it was going to crash into the street, but then it picked up a little bit.
Yes.
And as far as how it came over this corner, was it more like the wing or the body? Was the left wing, the right wing, or the actual body?
Oh no, it was more like the right wing headed.
It was the right wing. So
yes.
You'd say most of the plane was even further north of the station.
Yes, I would say over the tree here behind me.
Okay, so it kind of flew right over that tree.
Yes.
So Robert Tercios puts the plane a little closer to the gas station than the other two, but it's still too far north to hit the light poles and to create any of the damage. He's very clear about this, and there has been some, I'll put this diplomatically, there's been some confusion about when he points this way as if he's pointing south towards the official path. He's not pointing to the official path. He's pointing at the canopy of the gas station, and he's saying the right wing was right over that, and the fuselage was over this tree, which is entirely north of the gas station. Not by much, but north. And it can't be even on the north side of the gas station at all to do the damage. Now we're going to get to the Arlington National Cemetery, and I think you're going to be, most of you won't have seen these interviews. I think you'll be amazed at how consistent these people are. And yes, they may indeed have thought the plane hit the building, because they see the plane go off into the distance, and they see a big explosion. So they're assuming that the plane hit the building, of course, but the fact is that the flight path makes that impossible. So I think this is William Middleton, who was actually near the Navy Annex.
An interview recorded June 6th, 2008.
Right up there, he came in between, what's that, the Hilton and Navy Annex, and he started dropping. It was coming, I don't know the name of the street here, but it leads to Henderson Hall.
You're talking about the street right here on the north side of the Navy Annex? On the north
side of the Navy Annex. It was coming straight down the middle of the street, and I wasn't what was going on. And as it come past me, it was dropping.
Okay.
And you could...
Now, you were right here at this time?
I was right here, right there where that truck is.
Okay.
And when he came past me, my sweeper, the three-wheeler, I could feel the heat.
Oh.
That's how close it was
from
to
the
me.
plane itself?
From the plane itself. And as it went down, you could see that he was kind of fighting with it. Then you hear when he kick, a full throttle. So
draw the way you saw the plane come.
From right up there, he came in between, what's that, the Hilton and Navy Annex. And I seen him, if this is it, yeah, I would say.
Okay. So.
Well, this is our parking lot right here.
Yeah.
That came right over the parking lot.
All right, I forgot to mention one thing about Robert Tercios, the previous one, is that he mentions in there, I don't know how many of you picked up on it, but he mentions that the plane flew towards the Pentagon and then lifted up and there's another part of the interview where he gets into that in a little bit more detail. He says the plane lifted up to go over the highway sign. All right. So now we're going to go to another Arlington employee.
I looked up, looking in this direction, and I could see the plane over the corner of that the building there.
What building? The
That would be the Naval Annex.
Navy Annex?
Yeah.
Now, did it look like it was directly over the Navy Annex, or was it farther to the left of it, or what would you say?
From what I seen, it was to the right of it.
To the right?
It was on this corner of it.
Oh, on the right corner.
Yeah. And where those corners, you can see the building in the background, which is the Sheraton
Right.
up there. It looked like it came over that. And then it looked like it was just over top of the Naval Annex on the right corner of it.
On the right corner?
Yep.
From right up here, he came in between, what's that, the Hilton and Navy Annex.
And we were kind of stunned and knew we wanted to get out the way or something. It appeared that it was coming right for us, actually. So we knew we wanted to get out of the way, but
You mean
kinda-
it was headed right towards the buildings? Like,
yeah, if it came off that end, it looked like it was just coming straight in this direction.
oh, okay.
It was on the Navy Annex. It was flat. It was just like it was on top of the roof, landing on the roof. It's just like it barely made it over the roof. And then when it got beyond that point, and we started to scatter, it started to bank to the right, still coming forward.
The officially required low and level southern approach flight path is perfectly straight and absolutely cannot be in a bank for the plane to have hit the light poles and building, particularly at the officially reported speed of 460 knots. This very important detail is repeated by multiple witnesses.
Okay, kind of off of this corner. And down here.
Okay.
Okay, I hope that was all clear. He was saying that the plane looked like it was almost going to land on top of the Navy Annex. And clearly the Navy Annex is north of the official path. And he thought the plane was going to come and hit where he was. And he's in that Arlington Cemetery, if you remember the green circle. He's in that maintenance area. The plane can't fly towards that building and be on the official flight path. But now you're going to see some more witnesses from the same area, and you'll see how consistent these accounts are.
As I looked over, I noticed the airplane, nice sized plane, was coming in, and it was like, it may have been about no more than 3 feet above the Navy Annex when it was coming across from there. It was looking like it was coming over here for the buildings where we are over here.
Okay, so
that's
it was
where
right on
facing.
top of the Navy
It was on
Annex.
top of the Navy Annex.
And it looked like it was headed towards...
It looked like it was headed towards
Arlington
this
Cemetery.
way.
It appeared that it was coming right for us, actually.
Says this was coming across the building. It
That's
was
the
about
Navy Annex, right?
this the Navy Annex, and as it was coming across, it dropped down a little bit,
Towards you.
but angled
Okay.
as it was dropping down more,
Yeah.
and then it started angling.
Yeah, so exactly the same account, almost identical. And now we're going to hear from another, and this one I think is Donald Carter, I think.
So at the time, you know, all of a sudden we seen a plane far as overhead over the Naval Annex coming from over. So actually, you know, we spotted him. Then the plane actually veered off, sort of like he swerved off, and then he caught, you know, got on track.
Wobbling, right? Like, you know, I guess by his descending, he was straightening.
Would you say it was more on the north side of the gas station over here, or the south side on the far other end?
It was more on this side.
On the north side.
Right on this side.
Okay.
More on this side.
On the north side.
Right on this side.
Okay.
Just the overhead of the naval. He sort of come over.
And you guys were right over here.
Yeah, we was right over here. He sort of came like this center, and then he kind of veered over, and then he went on around like that.
Some people say that it was far over on the other side of the Citgo.
No.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, they must didn't see it.
Right, I forgot the ending there, sorry. So Sean Boger was the air traffic controller at the Pentagon. So he was in the heliport, which was a little bit, about 150 feet, something like that, away from the alleged impact zone. His account's important. Now, he says he thought he dove for cover. He explains he did that as the plane approached. Now, he describes the plane hitting the building on the second floor, which, of course, it couldn't have. But, you know, he was diving for cover, but he did describe the flight path. And you'll see how close it is to the other ones.
Where in relation to the Navy Annex was the plane? Did he come
when I saw the airplane, he was practically in front of the Navy Annex.
Okay.
So he was coming like at an angle. You know, his wings were tilted, so it was almost like he was trying to bank towards the Pentagon building.
So you would say he was kind of almost turning towards the Pentagon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once again, the significant right bank is corroborated by a key witness, even though this important detail is a fatal anomaly when compared to the official data and physical evidence.
You could see the gas station from there, correct? The Citgo?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you say, which side of the gas station would you say the plane was on as it approached? Would you say it was on the left? As you're looking at the gas station, would it be more to the right, like the Arlington Cemetery side? Or would it have been...
On my right and the gas station's left. If I'm looking out the window, if I'm looking towards the gas station, it'll be on my right-hand side. If I'm looking out the window, if I'm looking towards the gas station, it'll be on my right-hand side.
Okay. So, and if you were at the gas station with your at the back of the store with your back to the store facing the Pentagon, it would have been to the left of the gas station. Okay. So it was closer to Arlington Cemetery rather than the highway, Route 27, right?
Okay, so that's again confirms the other ones. It's exactly the same. To the right, he's now looking back from the Pentagon at the Navy Annex, and he puts it to the right. I put together all the flight paths that these different witnesses drew on photographs that CIT provided to them. And I think you will see, when you look at this sequence of photographs, I think you will see how impressive this bank of witnesses really is. Terry Marin and Albert Hemphill, two people that were in the Navy Annex, both of them described the plane going over the Navy Annex, again, a north path. Maybe we'll talk about those a bit more later. I have a feeling we will. But both of them put the plane probably somewhere between the two of them. Now, here's what I thought we were going to see a second ago. This is William Legacy's. This is what he drew. Now, look at this compared to his colleague, who he didn't even speak to until that interview. That's what Chadwick Brooks drew. Now, let's look at what William Middleton, that's Robert Tercios, the one that said it flew over the tree. Now, this is a guy named, we didn't have a clip of him, but Edward Paik was on the far side of the Navy Annex. He's a mechanic, and he didn't see the Pentagon, but he put the plane completely over the Navy Annex building. Now we get to the Arlington people. William Middleton, the gentleman that was beside the Navy Annex, that's what he saw. Now, Darrell Stafford, there's his path. Darius Prather, does that look like we're seeing some consistency here? Donald Carter, they all draw the same bank. Sean Boger, from a completely different perspective, almost identical. So there are those yellow lines. That's all the different North Path witnesses kind of superimposed over each other. And once again, the green line is the official path. Now, are they credible? I think they are credible. And I don't think that any of the criticisms of them are warranted. Now, here's one of the videos that CIT did was people from USA Today. There just happened to be a whole bunch of them right in front of the Pentagon, right at 9:30 or whatever the exact time was. And they all just happened to be late for work that day, apparently. Mike Walter is one of those. Here's what Mike Walter said in the day after 9/11. There were trees obstructing my view. So, he saw a smoke cloud and a fireball, but there was trees. Now we'll hear what he said 6 years later.
When something hits a concrete structure like that, this belief that the wings would go in is just ridiculous. What I saw was the actual jet going in, but the wings folded back like this. So that's why when you look at the hole, you say, well, it's not big enough. Well, that's why. The wings were not strong enough to withstand the impact. They folded back, and that's why the jet went in, and that's why the hole that you see isn't as large as you might imagine in another structure.
Now, I've got a few slides on the damage and I'm going to zip through them because Xander covered a lot of this more thoroughly than I could. So because I want to get to Lloyd England, and he's a key to this whole story. So here's what I got: the crash scene. That's a composite photo, but it kind of gives you, basic idea. Xander showed you that, the lack of damage above the hole. The bottom 2 floors of the Pentagon for the first 3 rings are all part of, there are no external walls that go down to the ground floor. They all start at the 3rd floor and go up. So that first 2 floors that the plane would have gone through would not have had to go through any external walls other than the E ring and the C ring. Now, massive engines, 8,000-pound Rolls-Royce engines, titanium, traveling at 530 miles per hour, hitting that building. What inside the building would have stopped those engines from getting to the C ring? I would argue nothing. And this is the supposed exit hole, and there's no engine exit holes. And the foundation, the concrete foundation, it's not damaged. That's looking out where the plane would have come in. Adam Ruff has calculated only 3% of he's another Pentagon researcher, colleague of mine, that very little of the fuselage would have had lettering on it. And yet all the pictures that we see, everybody seems to have a letter on whatever piece of, C is the same one, and there's another one. It's sort of a convenient way to sell us on the idea that that's the American Airlines plane. And then the light poles, which obviously I can't get into that either. 5 light poles in rapid succession at 530 miles per hour, no damage to the wings, no fuel exploding, plane not going off course.
That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Wow! That went so much faster than I thought it was going to. Oh, that was great! It was like here 1 second and then gone.
Gone in a 1/6 of a second. The rockets fire. At 75,000 pounds of thrust, throw the super plow along the track at a spectacular 550 miles per hour.
Now, I should say I'm not trying to argue that the physics of that would be the same as a plane hitting poles. Not at all. What I'm just using that to illustrate is the plane was supposed to be going 530 miles per hour. What you just saw is 550. So when people describe, when you hear witnesses that say, well, I saw the engine graze this top of this 1-foot-high concrete retaining wall on the lawn of the Pentagon, do you think you would see, you think you would be able to report that as a witness? I think that's highly unlikely. Lloyd England. Now, this guy's important. There's Lloyd on Route 27, which is the highway going beside the Pentagon. He appears to be there to reinforce the official story. He claims that the plane that came in, hit a light pole, well, at least one anyway, and that light pole impaled his taxi, narrowly missing him. We're going to see how impossible that story actually is. That's the pole. He says he flagged down a silent stranger who stopped and helped him lift it out. This Lloyd England, the cab driver, is 68 years old at the time. Now, you can see this is approximately where the taxi would have been traveling, assuming this story to be true. And you can see that the right wing of the plane is the one that would have hit that first pole. And that long pole you see in the middle of the road, there's only one pole that could be, and that is the first one hit by the right wing. How would the right wing hit that pole and knock it either over, under, or through the fuselage to go up the highway to hit the cab? Impossible. Now, he's there to establish altitude, flight path, wingspan, and to reinforce the idea of the poles. And once again, I'm showing you that again. The position of the pole makes it even more unlikely because he and the silent stranger would have to lift it out towards the side of the road and then bring it all the way around and carry it into the middle of the road and set it down. Why would they do that? First of all, how could they do that? Now, this is David Chandler and Wayne Costi argue that it was probably not that pole, it was an 11.5-foot section of the second pole hit. But they just make the assumption that, well, if it couldn't be the first pole, it must be some other pole, rather than considering the possibility that the story is a fabrication. Now, David Chandler says, and as Wayne Costi has pointed out, there is nowhere in any of CIT's videos that Lloyd England unambiguously identifies the long 25-foot piece as the piece that hit his car. He's not claiming, but he does repeatedly. Yes, repeatedly indeed. Why does this matter? Again, if it's the long pole that he's asserting hit his cab, then the story is a fabrication. Now, here's just a smattering of the interviews that were done. Russell Pickering was working with CIT originally. So it's the long piece, the piece, yeah, the long piece, the piece that was in the ground, about 30 to 40 feet long. The base of it was in concrete. Yeah, the long piece that was sticking out across the hood, about 40 feet long. So he's not talking about an 11-foot long piece of another pole. He's clearly saying that that very long piece that you saw on the road is the one that did it, which is not possible. Here you see him pointing to the pole in one of the CIT videos. Now, no witnesses saw anything hit England's cab. No one says they saw the cab swerving or traveling with a pole sticking out of the hood. And no one says they saw someone pulling a pole out of the car. Now this, I hope you can see it towards the bottom of the screen. There's a scratch that goes right across the road that ends right at the corner of the base of that pole. So it seems very clear to me that what's happened is that somebody has dragged that pole into the road and left it there. And you can see the scratch. We've got arrows that are pointing at the bottom. That's Lloyd's cab in behind the white car. This is the end of the pole that is alleged to have hit Lloyd's cab. This is the hole supposedly made by that pole, according to the official story. Now, here is in the research of David Chandler and Wayne Costi, we hear this. In the rear seat, there are some holes consistent with the lower support arm being the impinging projectile. Now, do you see any evidence that can be seen in that photograph? I do not. And first of all, there's only one hole. There's not some holes. Now, this is the front seat. The front seat wasn't ripped or impaled. It was bent back. This was taken the day after 9/11. This one is taken several years later. Again, how does a pole bend that seat without ripping it, then take a 90-degree turn downwards to make a tennis ball-sized hole in the seat? Here's the hood. Now that's where supposedly where that thing is circled. That's supposed to be the pole crushing the dashboard. But look at the hood. It's not even touched. So in fact, it disproves it.
His story is just what I said. You got to understand what you're saying. Not the truth. It's his story. Right. It has nothing to do with the truth. It's his story. This is too big for me, man. This is a big thing. Man, you know, this is a world thing happening. I'm a small man. You know, right. My lifestyle is completely different from this. Right. I'm not supposed to be involved in this. This is for other people who have money and all this kind of stuff.
But you said, wait, what do you mean?
I'm not supposed to be involved in this. I don't have nothing.
So your point that these people that have all the money,
this is their thing.
This is their event.
This is for them.
Meaning they're doing it for their own reasons.
That's right. I'm not supposed to be in it.
But they used you, right?
I'm in it.
You're in it.
Yeah, we came across the highway together.
You and their event.
That's right.
But they must have planned that.
It was planned.
He said this is for people with money and that kind of thing, which is a very odd thing to say if you're talking about a terrorist attack. Anyway, thank you very much for your attention.